Iowa Soybean Association is driven to deliver for Iowa's 40,000 soybean farmers. We're proud to provide objective agronomic research, a helping hand with soil and water stewardship, and timely industry news powered by the Soybean Checkoff. Learn more at iasoybeans.com.
We are going into the field again this week on the MTOM podcast. Hello, I'm Paul Yeager. Glad to have you here. It looks like many of you really like these reports that we have done from the ground, and this has already been a pre-scheduled slot that I was having in the podcast, was to talk to our farmers that we talked to in the spring, Bryan Pippitt and Donald Oesterle. We're going to catch up with them, find out the story in Nebraska, find out the story in Michigan, and I'm going to tell you two pretty different tales right here, except there is one commonality between the two, and we'll get into that in a moment. The last couple of weeks, we've talked to a producer in Iowa and in Michigan about how much rain they've had. Go back and watch that. Also, we are getting ready to launch something very fun, and I want those of you who watch and listen to this podcast to be a part of my test group. Send me an email at paul.yeager@iowapbs.org, or you can direct message me on Twitter or on the Facebook page of Market to Market, and give me your email address. I'll have it if you email me, and I'm going to send you something. Just tiny little tease. That's all I'm going to say. More is coming on the TV show very soon, which is produced here at Iowa PBS and the Market to Market TV show. Bryan Pippitt is the producer in Northeast Nebraska. Corn is the big deal for him. We'll also talk about soybeans. We caught him off the sprayer. He was kind enough to pause before he got into the field again. He's been on quite a run there. And Donald Oesterle in Michigan, totally different story from him. We're going to start with Don about what has happened there this year for him. And just one thing keeps happening over and over again. New episodes of this podcast come out each and every Tuesday. Let's get to our conversations. You're inside. Your clothes look like town clothes. You don't look like you got any dust on you. Am I seeing the internet right here, Donald?
Yep. You're seeing it right. We are not doing anything today, nor will we be for probably at least a week. So we got quite a bit of rain over the last 24 hours. So 4 to 5 inches. So we'll be doing what regular people do.
The last time we chatted, you were trying to basically get in rainstorms to plant. And I watched the weather, and I felt bad that I probably took you. That 20 minutes probably cost you some time in the field, but you had, again, small windows this
Yeah,
spring.
small windows. We never really it's been that way all we never get any stretch in, whether it was planting or spraying or hay. It is all a couple days here, a couple days there. So we don't get too tired. So we get plenty of rest.
There's no big sprints for you?
No, there's been no marathons this year. It's just little dashes.
You is everything in and planted?
Yep, we got everything in good shape. It was the last little bit got in June 4th. So just a few days later than what we wanted, but we were pretty happy.
And if I remember correctly, that June 4th is ahead of last year's late plant date that you had, right?
Yep. Last year we were like June 10th or 11th, I think.
So improvement.
Oh, yeah. Well, and last year we had 0 rain in June. So where that's not the case this year. We've had plenty of rain in June.
Okay, so everything's up, or everything's in, everything came up. Is everything done that you want done to your crop?
Yeah, pretty. We just have a little bit more spraying we were hoping to get done before we got all this water, just to touch up some beans. But everything else is done. Well, scratch that. Wheat's not done, so the wheat is going to be sitting for a second.
And that's always, wheat is, I won't say finicky, but that's probably as close of a word. It has a much less margin for error, right?
Yeah. Well, we run into a lot of this wheat goes right to the mills right here. And so it's all on quality. So if you have good quality wheat, you can get rid of it easy. If it turns poor quality, like if it starts to sprout and that, then you're fighting it the rest of the year just to get it out. So
What's the target date to get the wheat out?
well, it would have been this weekend, but we're hoping to get back on next week. I don't know if we will or not. To be honest, I've never had this much rain at one time on this farm, so I don't know how long it's going to take for it to dry out.
And you say 4 to 5 inches in the last 24 hours. It's June. It's not supposed to happen that way.
No.
You had the remnants of a hurricane come through.
Yeah, that's I didn't realize that until I looked at the weather page and think, where's all this rain coming from? And then they told me, and but yeah, so I mean, this is farming. You do play the cards you're dealt. So that's what we're gonna do.
Because 4 to 5 inches of rain before any crop is a week to 2 weeks out from harvest. To me, I don't think it's a good thing.
I mean, we're 2 weeks away from actually getting on the fields in decent shape. We're hoping we could skim the combines across next week to get the weed off. But we're 2 weeks away from being able to do much of anything. There's so much water sitting out there.
And we kind of overuse the phrase, and it's kind of outdated, knee-high by the 4th of July. Was your corn that tall this year, or was it behind?
Yep. No, we hit it. Everything was knee-high, and some of it was we actually had the first stuff we planted starting to tassel around the 4th of July. So that usually means pretty good corn around here. So as far as the corn, we're in good shape. Yeah, that's ahead of schedule for us. Yep. Our first fields would be July 10th, July 12th, and we're ahead because of the heat units we've had. So that's what I was going to ask: is why is your corn ahead? Yeah, we had extra heat units in May, and we had extra heat units in June, and the crops just loved it. So we were sitting really pretty in that regards. Really, this big rain that we got is the only major thing that we've bumped into. All the other rains seemed to get off. The water got off just in time for us to get stuff done. But this one's not going to.
What about the beans? How did they go in?
Pretty good. Beans went in pretty good. They, as you know, they don't get too crazy about being too wet. Like the corn's been loving it. The beans, they're probably a little bit shorter than normal. We're just getting, some of them are just starting to flower. So they're probably, we've had better beans before, but they still look pretty good. Before the rain. We'll see how they come out.
Yeah, before the rain. They need some heat though now.
They're going to need heat now. Everything's going to need heat now. We got some 80-degree days coming up, but then again, the 7-day forecast has it back down in the 70s. So maybe they'll be wrong, and we can stay in the 80s.
You need them to be wrong with less rain.
Exactly.
Exactly. Right?
Exactly. That's the thing. When it goes back, when the temp lowers again, we got another 50% chance of rain. So I hope not. We'll really be wet then if we get more rain.
Now, you know your area well, but some years stand out more than others. Does this year remind you of anything in your history?
Well, we were, before this rain, it was, I think it was we had quite a stretch between 2014 and 2016 where we had really good corn yields, and we were headed for some good corn yields. Whenever we can tassel by the 4th of July around here is always good. And we were tasseling by 4th of July. So that usually means good corn. We're just going to have to wait and see now.
What about hay?
Hay's been pretty good. First cutting was pretty good. Second cutting was pretty good. It's a little bit better than average. It wasn't fantastic, but it's better than average. So it came up in good quality. So we were happy with it.
But again, once you put it down, that's usually when it rains. Has that happened yet for you?
Yep. One field. We put it down. It rained. But then it turned like really hot right after the rain. So we were able to get it up in pretty good time and it wasn't too bad. But yeah, we had some of that. But
so I'm sure that the markets have given you all sorts of distraction, right? Watching things go down. How's that? How are you handling that?
Oh, that's just, it's like a bad movie. Except you don't turn it off. You just keep watching it. So, it's been, we've got some protection in place, but I wasn't exactly prepared for sub $4 corn. So, I'm hoping for a little something, but we'll see. The, everything's been kind of down. Canola's weaker than it usually has been in the past few years. Cattle's down this week, so. Then we got a bunch of rain. Jeez. Somebody changed the channel.
The hits keep coming.
Yeah. Yep.
I think before, it's coffee shop opinion, it's neighbor chatter. What's the sentiment right now around your part of the world? What's everybody most concerned about?
There weren't really a lot of concerns until we had all this rain. And then we get all this rain. And I was talking to some of my friends this morning. And they're like, yeah, we're flooded now. So we're not sure what's going to happen. And then this morning we found our first field that had tar spot in it. And we haven't had good luck with that. So I texted my buddy and I said, hey, I found tar spot this morning. He goes, thanks for ruining my day. So yeah, we've been hit pretty bad in some spots by tar spots, so nobody's excited. The first couple projections they did, and actually wasn't even going to get here till later on, which we've had to get here late, and we're just fine. Early like this, it doesn't work out so well. So especially now that we got 4 to 5 inches of rain, it's going to be hard to get. Some cornfields are going to need to be sprayed next week. I don't know if we'll be able to get on there yet or not. So that's not exciting.
Can you do any of that from the air? Is it going to have to be?
So you can do a little bit from the air. You really got to get lucky because there's a lot of orchards on the west side of the state. They got more money than we do. So, so most guys, they can stay busy staying right over there. So they don't usually come over. Sometimes you'll get one that's not busy, be able to come over, but we don't usually have good luck with it. So that's why we had everything set. We have it set up to spray our own, but we shall see.
Yeah, because if you can't get over it, you can't get it done, and that problem just becomes again. It's about those windows for you this year.
Yeah, exactly. It's about the windows. Are we going to get that window to get it done? So we'll see how long it takes. We had 3.5 inches a couple weeks ago, and it came off pretty well, but we weren't quite as saturated as we are now. So. We'll see. You didn't exactly catch me on the best day.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, okay, let's see. Let's end with, I said, frustrated. Let's end with something positive. Is there
Yeah.
anything that we have that's gone well? Have you been working on maybe your chip game or in the golf simulator? I don't know.
My last round wasn't fantastic, but the round before that, I did sub 50, which for me, is pretty good. But for
That's
9,
really
anyways,
good.
not 18 for 9. So
Again, that's still good. You
yeah.
should be okay with that.
Well, that's been Well, my grandkids were over today, so that was the good part.
There you go. They probably think this is great.
Oh,
Give
yeah.
them rubber boots
Oh,
and
yeah.
let them go out
Yeah.
and play in the mud.
Yep, that's exactly right. Yep, play in the mud.
Then you can take out the frustration spraying them down with the hose.
Yeah, cleaning them
all
off.
that mud out.
Yep, exactly.
Grandpa, why do you keep squirting me in the face?
Yep, exactly.
Now you had mud up there.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, Donna. Well, let's hope things turn. Years have a way of balancing themselves out some way. So you have to think, gosh, there's going to be some heat coming and we're going to get this thing turned.
Yep. We get some heat. Well, we can't take too much wind right now because everything will just blow right over. But maybe just a tad of wind. But
okay, that'll do. All right, Donald, good to talk to you. Thank you so much.
Yep, you too. Thanks.
How's the wind? Is that going to be a problem with spraying today?
It's been an absolutely ideal week for spraying. I don't think we've gotten above 8-mile-an-hour winds all week. Literally, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, been perfect. Mid-80s, no wind.
There are not many people that have used the word ideal in describing this year at all. So how many ideal days have you had, Bryan?
Well, this has been an ideal week for spraying. We did not have all ideal days during planting, but we were more fortunate than a lot of others, I feel like. So it was stressful at the time, but considering, I think things look pretty good. And I think maybe we're through the most stressful part of it, I hope.
You are in northeast Nebraska, and your parallel is even to where some of the heaviest rain has fallen in the Midwest this year.
Yes.
What were you in that path? Did you have a lot of water?
We've had a lot of rain, and we've had one big event, but the rest has been able to handle. We've had some big rains that we didn't get all soaked in, but we had a 3.5-inch rain, I believe April 16th. But that was our biggest volume at once. And I'd say we're probably pushing 20 inches of rain since planting or shortly before planting, but it's come not all at once like some of our neighbors have. We haven't had a lot of storms yet. And for the most part, a little excessive at planting time, but after the last few years, we weren't going to complain either. So we took it, managed, and got it in, I guess.
I'm going to guess that 20 inches of rain since April would be equivalent to what you had the previous 2 years almost combined.
Oh, yeah, maybe more. But yeah, very close.
Okay, so walk me through planting. You had this April 16th event. Had you started by then?
Yeah, we had 1 quarter of corn planted April 13th, and we sprayed it. Yeah, it must have been April 15th, so our first rain was the night of April 15th, the morning of April 16th, and that was a big, heavy shot. And then we had a lot of rain that week. I believe we had 6 inches total for that week, 3.5 in one shot, and then 2 more inch or inch-and-a-half rains. And then we got going again April 22nd, 3rd, and 4th, planted some more corn. And then we rained out between like 10 days, 2 weeks. And then we had that last window where we finished everything, and we were done May 19th, I believe, 18th or 19th, with corn and beans, both done the same day.
In May. You were done in May, though.
Well, I say we were done with the first time. We didn't actually replant. Well, I guess it was replanting. We didn't replant whole fields. We replanted wet spots, and some up to 3 times. And we sprayed a field yesterday that we had spots that just never did come. Small spots, but the first time, the first go around, we were done. I think maybe it was May 18th, if I remember, but May 18th or 19th with both corn and soybeans.
That's still way ahead many other people, though. You have to feel fortunate about that.
Yeah, we planted, I would call it drought conditions last year. We were still done about the same time. So, I mean, yeah, our planting date was not that far behind. A little slow emerging, it seemed like. We had that first planted cornfield, I believe, was in the ground for maybe 4 weeks before we had it start coming out. And it was probably our most uneven emergence, just probably too cold in the ground too long. But it's really turned now. It's probably a week away from tasseling, and it really has. It looks a lot better than it did when we kind of scratched our heads the first few weeks thinking about what we were going to do with it, but we left it and replanted maybe a couple acres of it, and now it looks pretty good. So I think it's going to be all right.
Is that your field behind you over to your right?
This is my uncle's field, but yes, we
Okay.
farm with him. So yeah, and he has
I
tassels.
see tassels on
Yep.
there, right?
This one was planted April 22nd. This was in the second window we planted. So yeah, this was it's an early maturity too. I'm not sure what he planted, maybe 104 day, but yeah, and we're by a grove. That helps. The whole field's not tasseled, but around the grove it is tasseled, and they're out. So.
Well, yeah, tell me about that early stuff, the stuff before the rain, because at least in this area, the stuff that was planted in that very first window looked the best all in June. I don't know if it'll continue that way, but how has it been there for you?
I would say the same thing here. And I would say our second window, because we planted one on April 13th, that one sat in the ground for an extra 10 days and these other ones. But the stuff we planted April, maybe it was 21st, I don't know, April 22nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th, I think, that window, we had about 3 or 4 days of planting. That stuff all looks good. It still does look good.
I had a guy ask me yesterday, he heard in Nebraska that the pivots aren't really running like they normally would by this time. What's your report from your area about pivots and how many are running?
Yeah, that's correct. I know we mentioned on our earlier chat that you wanted to see a pivot up close, and the sun, we didn't get cooperative lighting, but in my background, the neighbor he is running a pivot in the cornfield behind us, but he's also putting on his nitrogen. I think the only pivots running around us right now, they're putting on fertilizer through the pivot. I don't think anybody's just running to water yet. I think it's all, I would say I don't know. We got some neighbors running, but I know they're all putting on fertilizer with the pivot. So I think that's the only ones running that I know of right now.
That has to be almost unheard of.
Yeah, last year we were heavily irrigating in June. We had made a few circles already in June. So yeah, and our profile's full. And on the field, just a half mile south of here, we have a cornfield with a soil probe, a moisture probe in it. And it still says we're like 91% full. I just checked it before you called, and I wondered if you'd ask. And so, yeah, I don't know. It sounds, maybe the extended forecast sounds a little bit dry, not overly hot, but we may run next week just to run, but our profile is probably as full as it's been in maybe 3 years. I don't know, for sure 2 years. So, I mean, even if we do start irrigating, at least we have something to work with this year. Last year, we were just irrigating to keep the ground wet. And now we have subsoil moisture this year. So we're way further ahead than we have in the past years.
You remember my obsession about talking about pivots because
Yeah,
I just don't know anything about them.
I do.
So do you plan a different number, and does that number get impacted when it's natural moisture and it's not pivot moisture?
No, and like I say, we do select hybrids that are better, maybe push them a little bit higher yielders. But like Dad always says, he just says a half inch of rain is better than 3/4 of an inch of the pivot. It's more consistent. It's even. It takes you 2 to 3 to 4 days to make a circle of the pivot. So, you're irrigating during the day and at night. It's not all consistent. You don't know if you're getting exactly what you're putting on. So I call them a supplemental. They help, but they're not perfect. And we're glad we have them. But yes, we do select certain varieties for pivots to try and push them. But rain is just better for everything.
It also keeps the source moisture it buys you another period of time. I'm not going to say a year or 10. On a year, you don't have to run a pivot, but it certainly helps.
And we mentioned that in our earlier chat too, that we have a pivot that has 2 wells and run 1 pivot. It runs out of water on a typical year. And I'd say it'll be interesting to see what that one does this year, because last year we had to quit running it every so many hours just because we were pushing air, and you could hear it was sucking air, and the pattern wasn't right, and it just wasn't doing a lot of good. And it'll be interesting to see I would guess since March, we probably had 22 or 23 inches of rain on most of our farms. So that's our annual rainfall in a matter of a month and a half, 2 months. So yeah, it should charge up. The groundwater should be up. I mean, it should just help with everything.
Does it also charge up your optimism?
Yes, but I would like it to keep raining too, because we planted in some not ideal conditions, and we lucked out because it kept raining during planting, but we planted. And that's one of my comments I said this spring is, after planting into a drought last year, it's almost nicer to plant into a drought than it is when it's wet. It's just a lot more forgiving. We planted some stuff very wet this year, but it rained, it come out, it looks good. But if it doesn't continue to rain, I wonder if we'll have some late problems show up that probably were affected by the planter. But so far, we haven't seen anything like that yet, and maybe we won't, maybe we will. I can't tell you that, but I would like it to keep raining too. That would definitely keep my optimism up.
You are, I think you said, almost 10 days without measurable rain, and you might have a little bit moving forward. That's still not cause for concern that I'm hearing. But we're also mid-July almost already, and that has to make you feel good about just where you're at in relationship to if you even need to flip the
Yeah.
switch.
Yeah, it'll do a lot more good this year because, like I say, last year we were irrigating you're keeping the ground wet, but you had nothing, in the profile. And now that we're starting there, it just makes irrigating more efficient too because it hasn't been windy. We're starting to get some more heat, which we needed. But I say it's not like we're getting 95 and dry and 20-mile-an-hour wind every day either. So, like right now we waited till 8:30 this morning to start spraying because it was just soaking wet. The winds in the sprayer wet. We've been getting dew and just we haven't seen any corn that looks stressful. Last year we had corn in the corners that were already shriveled up, looked like pineapples, and this year we haven't seen that yet, and it just has to do a lot more good for everything. It's just making us more efficient, and the corn moving along. We're not stressing out. We've missed storms, we missed hail, we missed everything. So I don't want to get ahead of myself, but so far it could have been a lot worse. So I would say pleased with where we're at.
I'm going to guess the hail, you might have some friends that either were impacted or know people that were impacted.
Yes, and some of the people more central Nebraska on the interstate, Kearney, that way, I think they had 2 rounds of hail last week. I think one maybe Tuesday before the 4th and one maybe like the Friday after the 4th. I'm not sure about the dates, but I think there was about 2 rounds in some of those towns down there. And I don't have anybody real close I know, but from pictures and stuff I saw on like Facebook and stuff, it looked like it was very serious, very, very hard on crops.
You're not in a huge bean area, but there are soybeans around you. What's the story with them?
Yeah, and even soybeans look good this year too. I would say a lot of guys around here are probably now a lot of guys are 50-50, but a lot of the bigger producers I would say is a lot heavier corn. But yeah, a lot of guys around us seem like it's getting more and more popular. They plant beans first. There was the guys that planted beans probably April 11th or 12th, a couple days before we planted. And they were slow to come up, didn't look the best, but now they've really come a long ways. They got some heat, they obviously had plenty of moisture, but it seems like stuff is really growing. It's just getting to be that time too, but we've had a lot of mid-80-degree days since it rained, and it seems like that's maybe what we were missing in the month of June. We had plenty of rain, but we just didn't have the heat that we have had in the past, and now it's supposed to be 90 tomorrow, 90 all weekend really, and I think things have really changed. Even the last week, things have just really shot up.
That's crop making weather when you get there.
Yeah, it's just, that's what I say. I don't even like to get excited, but it's really been, we've been pretty fortunate where we're at because you don't have to go very far either direction. They've had storms, heavy rains, flooding, drowned out spots, and I know things can change, but so far we've been a little heavy on rain drain planting, but since then it's really have no complaints, I would say, yet.
Well, everybody who's watched this, they heard the first interview with Donald in Michigan where he just can't stop getting rain. He just had another rain event, 4 to 5 inches. Between you and Michigan, you look at Minnesota, you look at Iowa, Wisconsin. There's been a lot of rain in a lot of areas this year. Do you make anything of that, or is it just kind of the way it goes?
Yeah, I'm not old enough, but I know the gentleman, you showed me a video of, I don't know if it was a week or two ago. I think he said he was from Primgar, Iowa, but he was talking about 93, and I was only 2 years old, so I can't tell you. But my dad talks about that year too, and I think he even mentioned they didn't have any heat that year, and that's what Dad said. That was one year he remembers they never irrigated. The whole summer, they never irrigated. And then but he said they lacked heat that year, but they got the harvest, and everything was just average. It wasn't as bad as that guy mentioned, but it was disappointing yield. They thought, not during the pivots in this area that we were going to have great yields, and it just turned out it wasn't a flop, but it was just very average. It sounded like so. Mm-hmm. This is my 12th year since I've been farming with my brother, and I believe 19 was wet, but not unmanageable. I mean, we had spots we had to go around. We come back and fill them later, and we don't have a lot of standing water like some states around us. We have low spots. We don't have really fields. We just can't get planted on a typical year, but it's just hard to fathom what we had the last years, how dry we've been to have this much rain this fast. I mean, it's just almost unheard of. So what to make of it, I guess I'm a little unsure, but I guess I'm just happy that we're at least filling our profile back up. And just, if we do get hot and dry, I mean, we're just so much further ahead than normal. It's just, and the unfortunate part was we had a lot right on the creek too. We couldn't handle it all. I mean, we wasted some, but we plant a lot of cover crops this year or in the years past. And we've always felt like the last years we've terminated them early because we thought they were using too much moisture. And this year, we were happy with the fields that had cover crops on them because we had plenty of moisture at planting time. They grew, they were tall, they were nice to plant into. We didn't have any erosion out of them. So this year that kind of shined too. So we've learned some things, and yeah, I guess I'm happy with the moisture this year. We had there was a little bit too much at times, but for the most part, it was welcome.
And I'm guessing when you've been on those fields that had the cover crops that you terminated, are you feeling like you're not sinking into the ground? You're maybe able to get over them when you're spraying, and you talked about planting maybe in some muddy spots. Not your words, mine.
Yeah.
But you probably felt a little better in where you did plant on top of that cover crop.
Yeah, and we plant ours green. We terminate immediately the day of or the day after we plant it. So the sprayer sometimes in the same field right behind the planter, but it seems like it planted very nice. And we didn't. Not everything was cover crop, so we didn't let everything go that tall. I mean, it was probably waist high. We were planting corn into it, but yeah, it was just consistent. And we had a lot of fields this year that just have ditches and water ran down, cut them out. You fix them up, and the water rain again, cut them out. This we just left it untouched. We didn't disc any fields. We didn't fix any tracks, and just left it, and the rye grew. And yeah, that field had minimal erosion, so it was nice planting too. It was all even, came up nice, and it was later planted, so the ground had warmed up too by then. But it was very nice emerging. And like right now, the rye, you can't tell because the corn's so tall, but you walk out in it, and the rye, it's just kind of like a mat on the ground. It's like I say, I keep referring, if it does get hot and dry, I think will also help us retain soil moisture too and make us more efficient irrigating. And I mean, we have yet to see that. We got to prove it, but in my mind, theoretically, I think it'll help us if it does get hot and dry here in the month of July and August. I mean, we have our heavy irrigating months coming up, and I suppose in a week, corn probably be using about as much moisture as it's gonna. So maybe we'll fire them on and see how long it goes. But it'll be interesting this year to see because we're just a little unpleased the last few years at how early we had to terminate our cover crops just because we felt like they were using too much moisture and we didn't want to take a chance. So we went out and did get a lot of growth out of them. So it was nice to see this year, to see the fields were green before everybody else's. And it's just be interesting to see how the rest of the summer plays out.
It's certainly 2024 is going to be a data point.
Yeah.
A big data point for you on the extreme wet side.
Yep. Yeah. 19 was wet, but not like this. So I would say in my 12 years, this is by far the most rain in the short amount of time that I've dealt with. And even as a kid, before I actually was farming on my own, I don't remember planting like that I can remember.
I've looked at my lawn and went, it is not normally this green. It looks like May green in July. I mean, how many fourths I've had where everything is brown. I mean, I'm guessing around you were like us last year, no fireworks displays on the 4th because of its drought. And we're afraid that something's going to, start some fire.
Yeah, just everything's good. The trees look good. The ditches look good. The grass looks good. That's, like you made the comment about your lawn. I've already changed oil in my lawnmower this year. I didn't put that many hours on it last year. And yeah, the grass is green. It keeps growing. I got to mow more than once a week. And so, yeah, it just, everything looks better when it's green to me. Like you said, it just, when it's dry and like, around us where you're not quite so familiar, but so when the pivots make their circle, the corners, on each side, they were dried up last year. Even by this time, they were noticeable last year because we do a late pass, fertilizer pass. We have wide drops for our sprayer. So we usually do that typically around the 1st of July. And last year you could see exactly where to shut the sprayer on and off because the corners are so dried up already. And usually that time of year, you can't tell a difference. Then usually that's an August or September thing when the corners start drying up. But last year we could tell the first week of July exactly where the pivots hadn't got because it was already that much drier. You could just tell. So.
Yeah, you're going to have to do extra combining this year. You're going to have to combine the corners.
Yeah, I know it. And they'll probably be worth something. So. Last year they were probably, this is rough speaking, the whole farm like this, but I would say close to maybe like an 80 bushel leg, on corners last year versus the irrigated. It just made some worse than that and some better farms, not that much, but I say it's just considerable when you have close to 25 acres and your dry land corners. That's a big chunk out of a 160 acre farm. So your pivot might produce very well, but when you have 25 acres, it brings your average down. So our whole field yields don't always sound as good as what you think they are when you're combining, but it's just the way it goes.
Well, and the way it goes is I got to get you back on that sprayer.
Yeah.
I appreciate you taking time, Bryan.
Yeah, no, it's a pleasure and glad to talk to you and glad, I guess I don't know if it's a good report to you, but when I talked to you last time, I got a lot different feeling than I did back then. So, well, happy with where we're at.
Well, it's good to see someone smiling, and
Yeah.
you've been smiling this whole time. So obviously, feeling pretty good. I like the optimism.
Yeah, if we get the prices to go up, that's the next thing, but we won't get into that. So
Another discussion. We'll take care of that here in a few minutes on the show.
okay.
My thanks to those of you that watched and listened, the work that's done here at Market to Market and Iowa PBS. Our executive producer of this podcast is David Miller. Technical support comes in this form. Chad Aubry is production supervisor. His technicians of Sean Ingracia, Kevin Rivers, Neil Kyer, Julie Knutson, and David Feingold help make this podcast happen each and every week. My boss again, Dave Miller. I'm Paul Yeager, your host and producer and editor of this podcast. We'll see you next time. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.